Good evening, I'm Glen Bilaway, and welcome again to Look What We're Doing. Everyone on Cape Breton Island is familiar with the Sydney and Glace Bay Rotary musical productions, which are truly the first real sign of spring in our area. For over a quarter of a century, 26 musical productions have been staged. While we now take these annual productions for granted, tonight we would like to make everyone aware of the significance of this annual Rotary Club project. But before we do that, let's reminisce for a while.
Will you members of the school board stop bickering in public? Friends, may I have your attention, please? Attention, please. I can deal with this trouble, friends, with a wave of my hand, this very hand. Please observe me, if you will. I'm Professor Harold Hill, and I'm here to organize the River City Boys Band.
Come, boys, let's all be gay, boys, for education should be scientific play, boys. Don't waste your time with books, boys, for education should be scientific play.
The town is up to here with high players. Look, the Greeks in town.
And brandy bottle baits.
Here comes Scranton Slam.
I know I could make a fortune, but where can I have the game? The Billboard Garage wants a grand,
But we ain't got a grand on hand.
and they've now got to walk on the door of the gym at Public School 84. There's the start from behind McCloskey's bar.
But Mrs. McCluskey ain't a good scout.
And things being how they are, the back of the police station is...
The Rotary musical productions in the early years were moderately successful financially. But for some reason, when opening night was turned into one giant extravaganza, the shows flourished. When people listened to CJCB radio and heard of all of the politicians and celebrities who had traveled many miles to see the show, everyone thought it must be a show worth seeing, and weren't disappointed. In fact, most agreed it was well worth the money. Yes, opening night always was full of excitement, glamour, dignitaries, celebrities, and of course, Ann Terry.
Oh, I loved it. Every minute of it. I really, really did. And this particular setting here, as you can see, Glenn, lends itself very well because people would come in that outer lobby, they'd come down the steps, which gave you a chance to set up sort of who were your interview people going to be. And then, of course, there were lots of lights so that they all walked into floodlights, and that gave them a sense of occasion, too. And I always felt that the floodlights turned on in the lobby for cameras. Everybody came in. The women looked more glamorous in a bright light. The sequins sparkled. The tuxedos looked more beautifully tailored. Everybody smiled. There was a kind of a lift that just the lights gave, so that when they got into the theater, they were ready. And we always thought it was rather interesting. They would sit in cars all around and turn on their radios, and so that they got the best of both worlds. And people would go inside in the theater and take small radios with them so they'd hear what was going on in the lobby.
Was the attendance for the Rotary musical productions always high as it is today?
Yes, it was high in those days. Yes, indeed. I don't think they ran a week or over a week, but people always looked forward to the Rotary show as the big event of the spring. It's really a big cultural event or a big, social event. And I know people that would wait just to get out to see the Rotary show. I think they're still doing that.
Why was that feeling there that it was so important that it provided all of that glamour, and why, in fact, did people wait every spring and with a great deal of anxiety, anxiousness?
I think before we had television, we didn't see very much of this sort of thing, They liked to go to see live theater because we didn't have that much, and it makes such a difference. So, and then, it was just that, I think. There wasn't too much in this line going on in Cape Breton. If you wanted to see shows, you had to go to Montreal or New York or Boston or somewhere.
Terry, it's always impressed me, and it's rather surprising that on opening night we get so many important people to Sydney. They may be all across Canada, but that night is reserved for Sydney.
And people have always asked to come. And I think really, Glenn, it's because, quotes, Rotary show is important in everybody's town. It's not, because of Ian McNeil's staging of the whole thing, it doesn't come off as a well-meaning but not too great amateur production. It comes off as a special night, and people want to be part of something special. So that whether they're in Halifax or Montreal or Toronto, for instance, you know, my friends in Toronto who have been here many times, when I see them, and I see them frequently, often say, you know, well, what are they doing at Rotary this year? Gosh, I hope somebody will invite me back again. The last time I talked to Fred Davis, this is what he said. He said, has Ian McNeil forgotten about me? You know, and I said, Fred, I'm sure he'd be delighted to have you anytime come. But you know, it's not, as I say, they don't come out of a sense of, oh, Lord, we have to go to Sydney. No, no, it's important because of what Ian McNeil particularly, and everybody else working with him has done. It is an important, beautifully, professionally presented thing.
It's that kind of professionalism which every year has attracted Cape Breton's finest talents. Performers who are given an opportunity to share their knowledge and craft with others in the cast, developing a camaraderie which has become as traditional as this birthday cake being presented to Marguerite McDougall. Marguerite has been playing for the Rotary show since 1954, and every year the cast reminds her that she's loved and appreciated by everyone involved. And it takes people like her and so many others like her to make these annual productions so excellent. What the Rotary musical productions have done to Cape Breton Island, is that comparable to what how theater is progressing across the country?
Yes, as a matter of fact, I think it's a little better than most here. I mean, doing a big musical is something that usually only the high schools tackle now across the country. This is a great big production. These productions are as large as, say, the Rainbow Stage in Winnipeg. I mean, in the Rainbow, they're all professional actors and so on. But, I mean, the size of the theater and the money that goes into it, the costumes and everything else, it really compares quite favorably.
Oh, I can remember as a child, you know, always wanting to go to these productions and begging my parents to take me. And I just love music, and I never, ever missed a show.
Not one?
Not until I got old enough to go into them. Well, I was old enough to go into them, but then I never had enough courage to go into them. So finally, when My Fair Lady came along, I decided, well, this was it. I was going. And I tried out and got in.
Even from the days of the Red Mill and the shows thereafter, did you have a feeling that someday you'd like to be in a Rotary musical production?
Oh, yes. That was a big dream at that time. I was just a child and teenager, and that's what I look forward to.
Well, you know, you always have dreams. Everybody dreams of doing things like this, I think. Yeah.
Did the Rotary musical production back then provide those kind of dreams for a lot of people who eventually ended up in the Rotary musical productions?
I think so. I think, as a matter of fact, this evening there was a young boy mentioning that very thing, that he had seen, I think it was South Pacific, and he thought then, oh, gee, wouldn't I love to be doing this, you know? And he's doing it today.
I've always been interested in Rotary, and I think it's played an important part in community affairs for a number of years. In fact, I worked in the canteen when I was in grade 11 watching The King and I, and that's when I was really determined to get in the show. It's sort of like a dream come true to be in it.
It's a very difficult job because it's quite easy for me. This is my job and my life. But when you consider most of these kids are either going to school or have jobs or are wives and mothers and husbands and so on, it's really very difficult. And it causes, not hardship, but it causes a lot of disruptions of lives and everything else.
You have no idea. Like last night I attended a rehearsal. I attend most of the rehearsals. And there's one young girl, this is her first show, and she said, Mr. McNeil, she said, I've already spent $300 on babysitters just to attend these rehearsals. And she, I love every minute of it, and I'm getting a lot out of it. But that's gone on down through the years, sacrifices, and these kids work their butts off for months before the show, every night now.
Well, I think that the amateur thing is keeping it all together, not the professional. You think about big companies and they're all bankrupt. You know, they're all going down. But an amateur company, that's where the spirit lies. And without that, there wouldn't be theater, I guarantee.
Well, I think it's from the level of so-called amateur performances that live professional theater grows. If you talk to people on any level of professional theater in Canada or anywhere in the world, you'll find that they've started either with local companies, with village companies, with whatever. I agree with that wholeheartedly, and I think that it's terribly important that people understand the role that live theater in a community plays in that ongoing building of the cultural life of a country.
There's no business like show business. There's no business I know. Everything about it.
While the Rotary musical productions have been good for the people who have performed in them and have been good for industrial Cape Breton as well, the feeling of pride goes a lot further, especially with those who appeared in many of the productions almost to the point of becoming household words, at least in Cape Breton. When you've appeared in as many shows as Fred Scott, Honeyman, and Mary Charlotte Reeves, there are bound to be many funny memories and many fond musical memories as well.
And you know, we were a close company, a close theater company. We all loved one another. We all worked very well together. We never ever, really, we didn't have any friction.
There was no.
And I think that showed on the stage.
I took the leading part in the 12 and directed 3 musically. Yeah, and now that time, and I've met a lot of wonderful people too.
What has it meant to you, Fred?
Well, it's hard to say what it's just the friends that you make and the training you get under some of the best directors we've ever had. And I might say, I'm not going to mention any names, but we've had at least 3 and 4 directors that I would feel safe on the stage with any one of them.
Now, from this we go on to my friends, the Student Prince. And the song in that was Overhead the Moon is Beaming.
High seas every night for 2 weeks.
Good grief.
Yeah, it was a real buster.
Yeah. A real throat killer. Now, here we are into, this was, I think, musically, for me, for every one of you, had to be the hardest. It was the Song of Norway. It was called the Song of Norway. It was the story of Edvard Grieg's life. So it was all Grieg. Heavy, heavy music.
We brought Victor Braun here for that, and he went on to be the leading baritone of the Hamburg State Opera Company in Covent Garden in England.
I think still is.
And he's fantastic.
Sang in that just
and Margie McGibbon was the female lead in that show.
We did that.
And they did, well, honey, do first. And then there's Only a Rose.
Only a rose I give you, only a song dying away.
Yep.
Lovely.
And we brought Sheila Piercy here for that leading lady.
The Canadian Opera Company. And she sang with Fred. She was your female lead. And the next show was Oklahoma, when we moved into the more modern Broadway musicals. And from then on, we stayed, really, with those, didn't we? And then one of the pretty ones from that is people will say, we're in love, that, honey, we had Wally Coster, I believe, for that. And honey sang with Wally.
Don't sigh and gaze at me, your sighs are so like mine.
Don't look so vain with me. Don't stand in the rain with me. People will say we're in love.
were some of the...
It was like a trip away because my children were small and we didn't go anywhere then because we didn't travel very much. So every year it was off to Dreamsville into a new land, and I was another person. And it really was. It was just like a free trip every year.
Over the years that you appeared in the Rotary musical productions, there must have been a lot of amusing incidents that happened, I would think.
Sure, there were many. Mary Cheryl I think she has the top-notch one. You tell Mary.
What's that one?
It was in the Desert Song, and I was a Spanish lady of the evening, let's say. And I wore a ruffly gown, and the chap who shall remain nameless, who was my partner in this particular scene, opened his mouth to say his line. I hit him with my elbow, and out flew his teeth. His whole upper plate went right into my frills in my dress. He flung me on this chaise lounge that happened to be a part of the set and proceeded to search for his teeth. Meanwhile, hissing at me, laugh, laugh. So I'm going, and he's flying away looking frantically for these teeth. He found them, clopped them in his mouth, dashed to the center stage, and I'll never, ever forget his line. You know what it was?
What?
Don't you know I've got feelings?
And you know what? I was doing a double role in the Desert Song. And I was supposed to be the son of the commander of the desert forces there, the French commander. But I was also, undercover, I was the Red Shadow, you know? And so we were on stage and we confronted each other. And he didn't know that I was his own son because I was in the red shadow costume. And he was supposed to hit me across the face like that to instigate a duel, you see, because I was wearing a sword and he was wearing the big saber. And it was on a matinee, and the matinees were a real riot in those days. And he took the glove like that, and he, like this, you see. And one kid said down below, he said, "Ha, missed," he said. and then came the point where I was supposed to really draw my sword, and I drew it halfway out, and then I thought better of it. It was my own father, and I put it back in. And another kid said, "Chicken."
Well, I think children really, don't you, are super audiences because they do believe all that magic. And when you're on the stage, you do believe it yourself. And it's lovely to play to them.
The musical productions took on a professional look when it was decided to hire choreographer Don Gillies.
Well, I think the very first show, in my opinion, was Music Man when we first got Don Gillies here. And the shows after that just seemed to come to life because he taught the people how to move on stage. Before, they sort of stood around and sang choruses, and the show, the dialogue was good, and the acting was good, and the singing was always good. But when you get a professional choreographer to bring the show to life, which was what he did.
And Don works so, excuse me, so hard with the young people, and he's so patient and so kind, you know. We all have 2 left feet when we start, but he's very patient, and he brings his expertise, certainly.
He has a knack of putting it across and getting the most out of people, drawing the most out of people, because we watched some of the practices, and then when you see them on stage opening night, it's just a totally different group.
Exactly.
But yet the same group.
Exactly. And as I say, Don is a teacher, and you know, not everybody can teach what they themselves have perfected in their lifetime. And now he's teaching others. He always has, I suppose. Not everyone has that ability, but Don sure does.
So move in like that. Ready? And.
Because of this changed appearance Don Gillies brought to the shows, some young people geared their careers to the arts and music.
Yes, I'd say it definitely played a part. Theater, along with the music, is something that I have been interested in, and it's been, Rotary is the only way I'd see it around here. So yes, I'd say it definitely had some kind of an effect.
Do you plan sometime, Kathy, to perhaps make theater a part of your life, or voice, singing a part of your life?
Well, yes, I am in a Bachelor of Music program now, so voice will definitely be part of my life. Hopefully the theater, yes, I really enjoy it.
What does this kind of theater do for one's personality, the development of it?
Well, if there's no way you can be shy here. Everybody's friendly. You're just bound to make friends. And I don't know, you come out, you have fun. You get to know people and you come out of your shell if you're in one.
Well, when I first came, I didn't want to talk to anybody. And then now I got really into everything. It's really fun. Got to know a lot of people. Makes new friends.
Does it make you more aware of what's going on in the community?
Yeah, I find that, you know, once you meet a lot of people from different areas of Cape Breton, it gets you involved in what they do and not just what you do. It's exciting.
Were you shy at all the first couple of practices?
Oh, yeah, really. We didn't know anyone from New Waterford. Like, we didn't know anybody that was coming from New Waterford until a couple of days later. So it was good after we got to know everybody.
What does it mean to an individual to appear in Rotary musical productions over the years, as many years as you have? What has it meant to you?
I got to meet an awful lot of wonderful people, and there are a few of the girls who are still in the show with me today that go back as far as I do, Sue McDougall and Sharon McIntyre. They've been in as many productions as I've been in. And if you don't see these girls from one end of the year to the other, you know, come showtime, you all get together and it's like no time has lapsed. You're just friends all over again, and you get to be better and better friends each year.
This is a very special kind of that Rotary contribution, and that's intangible. The tangible part, I think, has been, for instance, what we're seeing this year. Can at Riverview, Oklahoma, you know, for a week and a half at the Savoy Theater from Morris and Glace Bay High. Earlier, St. Michael's did the Red Mill at the Savoy, and so on and so on and so on. All these things are resulting, their professionalism, the dance sequences, the costuming, is all a direct result of what the Rotary Show has set as a standard. And what Don Gillies has done in the directing line and in the dance line and so on. A lot of the people you'll find who are now producing and directing shows for high schools are people who've come up through the chorus in the Rotary shows, and they know how to put things together.
Without the persistence and dedication of the show's producer, Ian McNeil, the Rotary musical productions would have stopped long ago. It may be hard to believe, but this man has never seen an opening night production. He's always too busy attending to the opening night ceremonies. And every year, he always wonders if Cape Bretoners will enjoy the production. It's a difficult decision, wondering what show to put on.
Now, our most popular shows are the ones with the big chorus and the familiar songs that your mother and father and my mother and father would enjoy. Now, that's one reason we wanted to go back to the Student Prince this year with all that great music. We tried a couple of modern shows, like How to Succeed in Business. People did not like it.
How critical is this year's production? We haven't had a production for 2 years now at the Savoy and Glace Bay. How critical is this one?
This is probably the most critical one of all the 26 that we did, because I feel that we won't get it going again unless we keep the momentum going right after this show. Pick a new show and get into it. And I think the two incoming presidents are for that, and I think it'll go on now, Glenn. There's a lot of good young men in both clubs, and they're ready to go. They're signed now to stage crew, and that's a big job, you know, stage crew, for hopefully we're going 8 or 9 nights, and they're giving up a lot of time, some of them taking their vacations. But this is the critical year. If we have a success this year, you'll see the Rotary Show go on for a long time.
The overture is about to start. You cross your fingers and hold your heart. It's curtain time and away we go. Another opening, another opening, another opening, another opening of another show.
76 trombones led the big parade with 110 cornets close at hand. They were followed by rows and rows of the finest virtuosos, the cream of every famous band. 76 trombones caught the morning sun with 110 cornets right behind. There were more than 1,000 reeds springing up like weeds there of every shape and kind. There were copper-bottom timpani and horse platoons, thundering all along the way. Double-bell euphoniums and big bassoons, with each bassoon having his big fat say. There were 50 mounted cannon in the battery, thundering louder than before. Clarinets of every size and trumpeters who'd improvise a full octave higher than the score.